Hi guys, Milne here. I'm back with another cheeky little tutorial. This one is on my toxic house. The channel has been running for 2 years now and we finally hit 1,000 subs. I cannot thank you guys enough for the amount of support you've been putting towards the channel. All I'm trying to do is help you guys learn as I'm learning myself. And if you like what you see, please come join in the fun. Now, if you want to support the channel even further, you can always purchase a super thanks in which all donations will go straight back into the Atom shop for future builds. Much love. So I done a voting poll the other week on what tutorial you wanted me to build next. You guys picked this one. Now this camp won me first place in TNG's top 5 camps, all thanks to Nux Black Thumb. Now if you know Nux, you know exactly what I mean by when I say he's an absolutely fantastic builder. If you don't know Nux, I'm going to link his channel, and I suggest, once finishing watching this of course, that you do me a favour, head over there, check out some of his fantastic builds. Okay, as you can see, we're building obviously in the toxic. We're right here up next to this cliff. Now if we pan around, you've got Crash Vertibird down there. You've got the Grafton monster that strolls around there every now and then. Oh, there's also some Snallygasters. You've got Hemlock Homes up there, and then the workshop over there. Okay, enough of all of that. Let's get into the build. So we're starting with the barn prefab because we need to use the doors. If you break the doors, you'll then be able to remove the prefab. All right, next we need to grab ourselves some foundations. Now you want to try and center these up with doors. And the way I've done it is I've let the doors overhang ever so slightly, because later on when we put the rest of the wall in, we don't want it to poke through the doors. Right, so once you're happy with all of that, you can then break them doors, and we need to step the foundations out by half so we can build the first of the roofs. So we've got our temporary wall up in which we can start placing some roofs down. Once we've done that, we can then break the tie to this wall by changing the roof into a flat piece, because technically most of this roof on this build is going to be floating. Get the trusty flamer out and break the roof. Okay, now that that's all broken, I've put all my foundations back, and now I'm going to start working on the wall above the barn doors. Just remember that we always use the brick triangles. Once they're broken, we can then flip these walls around and double up the other side. Now we're going to lay down the main foundation. First off, I'm stepping it over by half. I like to try and get all my foundations facing the right way before I get too far into the build, and I find this carpet works good for me. I've gone 2 foundations by 5 long. Next up, we need to start working on the main part of the roof. So we've placed in 2 temporary walls. Now I've put 2 roofs either side. I'm going to break the tie on them and remove these walls. Once you've done all that, you can go ahead and break the roofs. Now we're going to grab a quarter catwalk and place it on them same foundations so that we can bring this roof and overhang it at the back. Now we can take our temporary wall again and place in the next two roofs. Now we're going to break the tie on these, remove these temporary walls and burn these roofs too. So now we've put our foundations back, we can get rid of them ones, and we're going to work on the middle part of the roof. As you can see, I've removed that centre foundation, stepped this one over by half, and then holding on the action key, which is X for me because I'm on PlayStation, you can move this foundation up using the triggers. Sometimes FreeCam can act a little bit broken, in which it will mess about with support, so you have to come out of FreeCam just to move it ever so slightly. Once you're happy with the height of the temporary wall, you can then stick some roofs on, always remembering to break the tie before you get too far into it. Then you can go ahead and burn all of that. Right then, all that's broken. Just going to stick down a marker foundation because you never know when you might need to come back to this. Once again, I'm going to place a quarter catwalk on so we can bring the roof out to match the bottom part of it. Slap another temporary wall in and we can place this part of the roof on. We've then broken, we just need to place this final part of the roof in, and that's the awkward part of this roof done. Just going to stick down another marker foundation because I've done builds before where I haven't put a marker down and it's really hard trying to get back to it. Cool, with all that done, let's build a chimney. Now, when I originally done this build, this chimney was an afterthought, so I ended up having to take down half of the walls because, as you can see right here, they get in the way of it. So to make it easier for you lot, we're going to build it now. Also, when I originally done this build, that last part of the chimney I couldn't get to go through the roofs, so I had to delete those part of the roofs out, put the chimney in, burn it, then put the roofs back on. Another reason why you need these marker foundations. This time round let me place it straight through the burnt roof. So as you can see, I've put another marker foundation because I need to remove these two. And this next part is completely optional. It doesn't take up a lot of budget, but I hate seeing the sides of the foundations, so I always underpin mine. Now, when the foundations are high enough, it will just clip on, not a problem. But when they're a bit too low, you're going to have to go underground, which I'll show you in a minute. As you can see here, the half wall just doesn't want to snap under there, so let's head underground. Once we are back with our feet firmly on the ground, we can place these, get rid of them, place these two foundations back in where they was. And then finish off just by underpinning these two sides as well. We won't bother with the front of these foundations because we'll put stairs on there later. We'll stick a foundation here and that'll end up being the back entrance of the house. Take note of that last catwalk Pure and simply, there's no point underpinning it because it's so low to the ground, you might as well save that little bit of budget. Now you can go round and double wall everything. Also, don't worry about filling in the walls on this front entrance part because we need to do some more work on that in a bit. Next, we can start putting down some triangles and infilling some of these gaps. Whilst we're working on the triangles here, we're going to place in a half wall in this middle. Don't worry about that tiny little bit of gap because eventually the chimney will cover that hole. Alright, now we've finished playing around with all our little triangles, we can start on the final piece of the roof. So with the roof, we're going to leave out the middle two because from inside it'll be a full height ceiling. We're just going to place a couple of flat ones down here. Next, I've moved that foundation out of the way so that I can move this one to centre it up and work on this middle part of the wall. Right, so these two walls are just temporary, and then you only want to place one half wall. I placed two on there because I've done this build like 20 times this morning and I got confused. So don't worry about that top half wall. Once the half walls are burnt, you can remove the temporary walls. Now I've moved my marker foundation to the side so I can place in two porches to set my stairs. Once the stairs are down, get rid of the porches and put your foundations back. Now heading inside, we can repair and flatten these two parts of the roof because we need to put in some of them upside down triangles. Now the triangles are in both sides, we can change these roofs back. Right then, staying in the same spot, you want to place down 4 bookcases because these are going to be the infills of our wall. Take your time lining this up because it can be a little bit fiddly. In the end result, we want to make sure that when the doors are open, you can't see any of the bookcase. So I've pushed these back off the front of the foundations, if you know what I mean. And finally we can place in these last two walls, and that completes the front entrance of the build. Okay, now we're back round the back of the build. We're going to work on this back door. So I've changed this inner wall to the, I think it's abandoned mine kit that's got that little overhang roof piece on it. And then we're going to place in two of these posts. You might find it easier to change the carpet over. Just something with lines in it makes it a little bit easier to line up. Right, now you've spent the next hour of your life lining these up, we can change that wall back, and then we want to push these back just so that little roof overhangs them ever so slightly. And when you're totally happy with where they sit, we can bring them over here, come out of FreeCam for this part, and foundation merge them just down to that last little lip on the bottom of the wall. And then we can bring them back and see what it all looks like. Once you're totally happy with them, we break the pillars, and then we're going to put in some railings. Now these will just clip straight through the broken post. Right, once they're in, change the wall back, and that's the back entrance done. Right, and so now you can do my favourite part and repair everything. With that done, we can flatten these two parts of the roof, because we just need to work a little bit more on this chimney. Right, so once we've broke that top part of the chimney, we can then go back into the fences and take some stone pillars, and these will just snap straight through the broken one. And once you're happy with all them, we're going to take the smallest of the fire pile, and this will just tuck in. You'll find a nice little spot where you can place it, and it's just a little bit in the chimney, which makes it even better. If you need to move it, you can just using FreeCam zoom into the pillar and you'll be able to pick it up nice and easy. Next, you can place all your roofs back and repair the chimney. Job done. Alright, lastly, back around the front of the build, this is what it should look like, because we only put one half wall in. And you want to flatten these roofs so we can just work on these triangles. And finally, now that that's all repaired, you should have something looking like this. Okay, now we're going to quickly head inside. This is the entrance piece. You can see that nice full height ceiling there in the middle. All the gaps are all filled in, and we've got the chimney place all nice and central to that back wall. Lovely job. Okay, so anyone that's come along just for the tutorial, we are all pretty much done. But if anyone wants any more, we're going to head on over to my original build and I'll explain a few merges. So if you're leaving us at this point, I really hope you enjoyed the tutorial. And if you like what you see, why not give us a little sub, and maybe I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Okay, so here on my original build, just going to run over a few things with you. This is how I ended up doing my roof. I really love that RIP kit, and then I've mixed and matched the Helvetia kit with the destroyed kit because they look as close as I possibly could get. I wanted to do some parts of the roof broken and falling apart whilst some parts of the roof are still intact. And then over here with this roof, I wanted to try and do like someone had tried patching up some of the holes. It's pretty easy to do. All you've got to do is move the foundation directly above it ever so slightly, raise it up a little bit, burn all the roofs, and then place in another roof. I really like to try and do my builds as immersive as possible. I like to make them part of the game. Moving on to the walls, I always use the destroyed kit on the outside. It just makes it easier for Yasmin to just walk straight through the wall. Don't ask. Anyway, as you can see, that top centre part that I said would be covered up by the chimney is nicely covered up. And then I just went round the outside, placing in the old defence walls and things, and just mix and match your packs as much as you can. See which one fits you, see which one you like. But most of all, just try and have a little bit of fun with it. I went round and wallpapered all my underpins to make it look like a foundation. You can see down there, it looks like the basement windows maybe. I'll show you the basement entrance when we get inside. Then when it comes to this bit, I've done it like a sort of junk store, somewhere to put your crap, even though my crap's all over the camp. And I've just placed a little defence wall over here with a fire pit, because originally when I done this build, I could not get these underpins to tuck in here. Luckily for you, I was thinking properly and we added them in nice and early. Now we can go inside and I'll run through a few of these merges. This is my weapons stroke armor bench merge. I've covered this on my merges tips and tricks 2 video. I'll link that in the description in case some of you haven't seen it. There's a few cool little camp merges on that. And then on this side I've just stacked up a load of the single cabinets, merged them all down, and then I merged them all onto a big cabinet with the scrap box in it, and then merged all that onto a table. Nice and simple. Now we've come to Yasmin's favourite seat in the whole camp. This was relatively easy to do. All I've done was place the bench on a mat and then placed it on top of the fireplace and then just merged it down to the height that you want. Just a quick side note, you'd need to add all of that in when you're first placing in the fireplace. Sorry, when I was originally filming this, I was struggling to remember where I put the mat. I mean, anyone would have thought I would have just edited that out. Okay, now we've finally finished looking at the fireplace. I've got a little vending area here, which is pretty simple to do. The vending machine is fully operational. You can use it straight through the display case. So all I've done here is place 2 dressers down, put the display case on top of it, found which one it sits on, merge that one down, then you can break that one and place the other one back in. If you break that first one again, the display case will disappear, and you can then place down the other stuff, keep repairing the display case, see where it all sits. This other stuff, you can literally just pick it up with the display case burnt, and it'll find support on top of the dresser unit instead of the display case. So you can just pick that up and move it as much as you want until you're totally happy with it all. So over here I built a PC which is nicely modelled by Jasmine, and all you've got to do here is place the TV monitor on top of a typewriter, merge it down, then you can just merge it all on top of another typewriter, lining it all up as you go, and it should look something like this. Moving over onto this planter I built, you just place one of the chairs with a plant pot merged down into it, put that on top of a conduit, and then you can merge all that down into your second chair, and it makes this cool kind of little planter. You can always foundation merge it a tiny bit if you want to hide that conduit. Mine I managed to hide with the cabinet next to it and that rug. Over here I made a sort of indoor pond using the Enclave plotting table, and it's just a question of placing everything you want on top of it and getting the merge order, slowly merging bits, lifting other bits up till it all roughly sits at the same sort of height, then pushing it all down. Looks kind of cool in my eyes, even though it's not merged perfectly. You can get some really nice sort of textures when you mix and match the two different walls. Just experiment with things, placing them all in, and I really like how this roof turned out. As Aussie Kitty Cat would say, nice bit of roof porn. And just heading outside, have a look at this. Now it's all repaired, just sets off the back door nicely. There you go, Yasmin's back up on her chair. Right now we're working on the kitchen. I'll run through how I merged all this. So it's just a question of laying out all the main frames, seeing which one gets support for the table, merging that one down, placing that one in first. And then once it's broken, the table will disappear and you can place the others in. Stick the sink up, find which one it sits on, merge it down. Over this side, the table sat on that one. So once that is broken, table's gone. I can then put the next one, which had the cooker on. I had to put this cooker on top of a conduit, then place it on the main frame, merge it in. As long as you burn them main frames first, the item you've merged into it will totally disappear. Over here, chopping board merged down into that one. And then we've got the first one, which has got the table on. So break that one first. Then you can place your next one with the chopping board in, break that one, and then you can place your last one in, and then just add some Enclave wall lights to make the handles. So here I made a little cooking pot. I took a few items and merged them down into a punch bowl, and then merged that down onto the flat conduit to make a sort of handle. So in this corner I had a sort of gap where the two tables were not quite long enough. So I broke the two main frames that supported the tables, then placed in a larger main frame to hide the gap. I always like to hide some cheeky little pictures behind these windows. Easy enough done. Change the first wall into just a plain wooden, break it, and then you can just line your picture up, put it in, repair it, change it back to a window. Then lastly, around this corner, we've just got a normal barrel that's got a series of different plants merged down into it. It's just about getting the right order. And we've also got a Nuka Shine keg here with a plant merged in the top, and the rest is all just chucking junk around. We've got an ashtray here, and I used two of these little UFO incense burner things, merged one on top of the other one, and then placed it back on top of the ashtray and merged that down. Just makes it look used then. I originally see that from Reasonable Madness, who I'll link in the description as well. Oh, and here's the entrance to the basement that I said about when we was looking outside. It's just the utility shelter foundation merged down, just so you got the hatch showing. Right, so I think we've covered pretty much of the merges inside. One last thing I wanted to show you. These end parts of the roof are handy to chuck yourself a generator in. This will power the whole of the camp, and it's nice and hidden, so you've got no wires hanging around. So there you have it. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. This was a fun build for me to do. It took me about a day to remember how I built it though. I really hope you might have learnt something, and if you like what you see and you want to see a bit more, why not hit us with a sub. I do regular camp builds, tutorials, I live stream every now and then, and I also do player camp showcases. So if anyone's on PlayStation, let me know, and I'll see you in the next one.